law of one is a work allegedly channeled from Ra, a sixth density social memory complex that originated on Venus and is able to communicate with humans in the language that they understand. Ra is a functionary of the Confederation of Planets in service of the one infinite creator, a confederacy with around 53 civilizations and around 500 planetary consciousness complexes. If you don't know what any of that means yet, that's fine. Ra was channeled by a woman named Carla Ruckert, the scribe was a man named Jim McCarthy, and the questioner was a man named Don Elkins. Together they compiled 106 channeled sessions before Don Elkins' death, where they asked Ra all manner of questions about metaphysics, philosophy, history, evolution, and more. In this video, we'll walk through the introduction to Book 1 of the Ra material and discuss its import in the context of the material as a whole. The introduction is written by Carla Ruckert and contains quotes from Hatton, who was the original channeled entity of L&L Research, which was Carla Ruckert and Don Elkins' organization that they formed in the 1970s. Carla says reincarnation is one of the most important concepts to be grasped, for through it, the universe functions in order to advance the evolution of mankind. This evolution is seen to be not only physical, but also metaphysical, not only of the body, but of the spirit. So there's this sense in which we can talk about how there's this overarching telos that's driving forward the universe, this transcendent end or purpose, which is in no small way related to the biological and spiritual evolution of life on various planets, including human beings, of this kind of cosmic evolution of the logos coming to know itself through all of these incarnations of what turns out to be secondary images of that ultimate reality. So there's this way in which ultimate reality is experiencing itself through the incarnation of all these non-physical entities throughout the meta-life cycle of each spiritual being, because that's truly what we are. As French Jesuit priest Pierre Teilhard de Chardin says, he says, matter is spirit moving slow enough to be seen. So we're not only talking about the physical, but also the metaphysical. There's this metaphysical reincarnation whereby there are all these different life cycles that we as an individual experience for the universe. Carla says incarnations are seen in this system of philosophy to be opportunities for an individual to continue his evolution. It's about the logical and experiential self-identification of each individual being in conjunction with the logical and experiential self-identification of that ultimate reality, which is the purpose of creation. This is why that's called the one infinite creator in this text, because it couples unity and infinity in these kind of minimal and maximal function. And by scaling all levels of personality and impersonal existence, it's able to create this world which functions through the life cycle of its secondary images. The fundamental message of the Law of One could be distilled to the fact that all evolution is purposeful. The entirety of the created world is the infinite creator trying to explore and inhabit finite existence for its greater self-knowledge. The way that the universe organizes is such that there are various densities of awareness corresponding to greater conscious knowledge of the Law of One and the lessons of each terminal incarnation. Basically, you are a secondary image of God, and thus everyone shares the same fundamental identity as you, and you share that same fundamental identity that spans all of existence and every other human being. Everything is interconnected in the way that what we can tell of it is only rudimentary, but this is logical. This has to be the case. So in one sense, you are entirely unique, but in the other, you are of the same substance as everyone and everything else. It is the coupling of God in your particular instance that incarnates in what's called the non-terminal domain to give rise to your terminal incarnation and the lessons to be learned thereby. There is a sense in which we can say that you have this non-physical essence which is choosing to incarnate in your life experiences and various catalysts that you will have to deal with in life for the greater self-knowledge of both your individual identity and that collective identity that spans all of existence. In the Cognitive Theoretic Model of the Universe, or CTMU by Chris Lang, a theory of everything that explains some of these same fundamental realities as the Law of One material, there's this mu-morphic grammar, the mu-morphism mapping, that attaches God to each of his secondary images. So there's a sense in which this collective identity that spans all of existence is absolutely personal, and God is fundamentally and transcendently personal, as defined by his relationship with every created being. The universe functions, as we said, in order to advance its own spiritual evolution, the expression of this ultimate identity, and is thus evolving towards an end, towards a teleology. It's the purpose or end of all of existence is self-identification, for the one to come to know itself as the one. This is true both at the level of the universe and at our individual level, where our purpose is teleological self-actualization, to align ourselves with the teleology, with the purpose and will of God and ultimate reality, to become who we truly are in accordance with that transcendent moral and natural law. Thus, Carla writes, when we attempt to consider our relationship with the universe, we begin to see that there's a great deal more in heaven and earth than has been dreamt of in most philosophies. It is an unbelievably gigantic universe, and if we have a true relationship to it in the way I just described, we must ourselves be more than or other than our daily lives seem to encompass. So this metaphysical knowledge about our profound and intrinsic role in the structure and dynamics of reality has to accompany a change in our planetary and individual consciousnesses. We have to live life in a more thoughtful way, because there's just no way to justify some of the things that we're doing on Earth right now, these global power structures that are basically geared towards enslavement, war, violence, conflict, the corruption in our governments and corporations, etc. It's unjustifiable. So if we can take a step back from these separate and disparate instances, the way the world appears to us, and move into this eternal world, the way the world truly is, and see that there is this moral law, then we can recognize the entirety of the created world as a sacramental avatar of the divine, that everything, as Alan Watts so brilliantly said, everything is God playing hide and seek, that if the purpose of our terminal incarnation is this self-exploration and self-identification of the one creator, then in these many variegated instances, this is sort of a divine play, and there's a way in which this is really fun. We get to exist and live within a world that we ourselves did not create. But if you really abstract up to our highest level of identity, to what is actually our eternal essence, we did create it, and that there is an actual role of our lives, of our destiny, of our incarnation in how reality exists and evolves. So this manner of living in the world is called in the raw material the magical personality. We strengthen the so-called magical personality until we are able to have some small claim to the art of causing changes in consciousness at will. So this is the classical definition of magic, but not magic in the sense of pulling a rabbit out of a hat, but using our mind, using our body, using our spirit to effect changes within reality. And if we can do this in a way that's advantageous to that objective good of which we spoke, in order to advance the teleology, the purpose of God, that is the purpose of our life, that personality crystallization, to have our mind, body, spirit complexes, as it's called in the raw material, reflect the one infinite creator to the utmost degree, that through our being shines forth the light of that creator. If it is true that the purpose of our life, of our terminal incarnation, is in some way related to the actual cosmic evolution of how things unfold in the world, then we actually are co-creators with God, that we're secondary images of God, and we share authority with God over the world. And we have to actually make this the best of all possible worlds for ourselves and for the others living in it. And so this is fundamental message of the raw material, is you have to intelligently organize as an individual and as a species around love and understanding to graduate to this next level of consciousness called fourth density, or this next level of understanding, in which no longer everyone's running his own show. Third density is the density of awareness, of self-consciousness. We can't have that in fourth density. If we are to intelligently organize, that means that we have to recognize that shared level of identity of all of humanity, and then work to provide for everyone's basic needs. Fundamentally have this speciation event as humankind, and intelligently organize around that teleology and around the spiritual wisdom and love. When we achieve this properly and live magically, so to speak, as individuals, as a species, in harmony with the will of God and with one another, we're not identified with this fleeting physical body, but rather the structure and purpose of reality itself, you are eternal. There's nothing that can interdict you and your connection to the Creator. As Chris Langan says, when you have completed your mission, you will be retracted upwards along the mapping that created you. And using that connection, you will have a chance to reunite with God and participate in the organic evolution of the universe through future incarnations. You can be coupled with a heavenly body, a resurrection body. All of these things are possible if you can positively polarize around love and service. Then there's nothing that can interdict your connection to God, because you are expressing His being through your existence. Hatton says that they, meaning these extraterrestrial beings, are attempting to guide us in such a way that the seeking of the individual will be stimulated to turn his thinking inward to that single source of love and understanding, the Creator that is part of us all, part of everything that exists. For everything that exists, my friends, is the Creator. In other words, within you is this spark of the Creator, the infinite source of existence. The proper orientation in life is not towards the finite conception of the self as an individual, but rather as the ultimate self, your highest level of identity that relates you to all other entities and to ultimate reality itself. When one becomes aware of this, they may, in a loving and non-prideful way, become oriented to service to others and service to Creator rather than service to self. What the raw material says is that we are on the cusp of this sort of shift in planetary consciousness, a harvest, so to speak, whereby the wheat will be separated from the chaff and we'll have this entire planet of benign and teleologically consistent entities who are organized intelligently around love and understanding, these kind of systems which will assert themselves in the future, which are far superior to the way of current human organization. And that has to exist within fourth density, because you have to transition that into love and understanding and the ability to make common cause with your fellow creatures if we want to evolve as individuals and as a society. And as we know, the societal evolution is closely connected and tied to the organic evolution of the universe and the purpose of reality itself. This will affect a permanent shift in human spiritual evolution. We have to see ourselves as being in a symbiotic relationship whereby our ends and purposes are connected to that of the earth, that of God, and that of our fellow creatures. Hatton says this is a very great time, a great transitional period in which many of the Earth's people will be raised from their state of confusion to a simple understanding, the love of their Creator. The fundamental message of the raw material is that all things are one. Everything is the expression of the same ultimate identity. It is that singular mystical unity that binds everything in existence and has that personal identity insofar as there is this world soul that emanates from it that creates all of these personal creatures and then creates a self, creates an identity for that identity. Everything is one, united by love. This is the law of one. This is what Dante meant when he wrote of the love that moves the sun and the other stars. And if you walk in this love and light, not only do you dwell in God, but God in you. We are approaching a new age, a human singularity, an omega point, a quickening of human planetary evolution where all will be forced to decide their polarity. Hatton says each and every one of the people who dwell upon planet Earth will shortly make a choice. There will be no middle area. There will be those who choose to follow the path of love and light, and those who choose otherwise. I will close with the prayer of St. Francis, an excellent summary of the law of one that Carla was said to say before every session. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. Let the light shine forth in the darkness, and the peace of our Father in heaven be upon you. Like and subscribe. Peace.